I had opportunity, as I said, to work in with people with addictions in psychiatry, and one gentleman that I remember that I worked with, a young man, had come into the forensic assessment unit in the hospital that I was working in, and he had come in without really understanding how or why things had got to the place they had been. He had tried to change before, but hadn't been successful. He told me that his friends always dragged him back into the kind of lifestyle he didn't want to have. He was drinking to cover his emotional issues and problems. He had had a head injury years previous, and that affected his ability to be able to concentrate, and his anger outbursts were quite severe, and it just went on. And after several weeks of talking with him, he started to talk about what this change in coming into the hospital meant. He had been unable to change. He had tried everything that he knew how to do. And then had an incident with a gas station attendant, and ended up in the forensic assessment unit for pre-trial assessment. That, he said, was his bottom. He had never been involved in any kind of altercation to that degree before, and to be brought up on charges of something where he did something was absolutely his absolute limit. He was not going to do anything like this again. He also went on to tell me that the time he had in the hospital was an unbelievable blessing, because he was able to get sober for the first time in years. It brought him away from the so-called friends who were there, who were not helping him and were keeping him in that place of bondage, really. And it allowed him to connect the dots for himself in a way where he had that uninterrupted time. He didn't have to worry about work. He didn't have to worry about family issues. He didn't have to worry about trying to say no to his friends and be in the situations or anything like that. He was able to have that uninterrupted time to sit there and think. And he did. And he processed. And that was his bottom. He hit bottom. I think most of us have times in our lives where we've hit bottom, or think we've hit bottom in one way or another. And my hope is that you and I and everyone that we deal with and everybody around us and all of our loved ones can learn how to embrace change in our lives in ways that are maybe not as subject to the pain. And if we have to change and we have to have the pain in order to change, my prayer is that that bottom line for you gets higher and higher, so you don't have to go through the same kind of losses, so that you don't have to experience the same type of pain, maybe to the detriment of everybody else around you. I tell you, one of the things for me in my bottom line is when I realize that my actions have hurt another person. When I understand, when it gets into my head and really into my heart that I have hurt another person, that stops me in my tracks. And I take notice immediately, and I start asking, why did I do that? What was happening? What was going on in me? What was driving me? And that comes to what I value and what has meaning for me in my life.